Okay, so one of the biggest pieces when we're talking about being healthy is the biochemical function. Now, our bodies are not steam engines, so the thermodynamic thing is trash. We're electrochemical machines, so we have to get nutrients in, specifically ionic stuff, to help the body function, create energy, which is ATP, and move through. So the biggest thing is that we talk about this all the time. Good chemicals in, those are nutrients. Bad chemicals out, that's waste and toxins. And that's basically the most high chunk, most elevated piece we can go through. Um, there's a bunch of stuff working against you, and this is just take it for what it is. Our country has been specifically set up to make people as sick as they can, so we can sell as many pharmaceuticals as possible. That's really what's going on. If you look at the chemtrails, what our country is specifically spraying on us on purpose to make us sick, it is a gigantic list of heavy metals, mold spores, all sorts of stuff. I got the list about a week ago from one of my buddies who works for the government, and he was asking me if I could help detox them, and it was a gigantic list. I'll publish it sooner or later. I'm going to publish it with how we detox all this stuff as well. And then the chemicals that are in your food that are specifically designed to make them addictive and then destroy your health so that you have to take more drugs. That's basically what it is. And then obviously the childhood vaccines, which are designed not to help people, but to specifically injure them so they need more drugs later on in life. Look at the Ford study. It's pretty obvious what's going on. So from a biochemical standpoint, we got a lot of work to do. Your body requires a significant amount of minerals. Those are your electrolytes, and calcium, magnesium, potassium. Those are all great. But selenium, boron, iodine. This is one of the funny things. Like I talk to people all the time. They're like, "Oh, my doctor wants me on this thyroid medication because my thyroid doesn't work well." The vast majority of the time, you give those people iodine, and all of a sudden their thyroid works just fine because your body is designed. It was created and designed to work in a very specific way with the chemicals it's supposed to get. T3 has 3 iodines, T4 has 4 iodines. And if you're not specifically putting iodine in your diet, you're not going to have the nutrients and the chemicals required to run your thyroid. That's where it is. So you've got that. And then the vast majority of people have massive parasitic infections, which if you just knock the parasitic infections out, your body gets a lot more nutrients in, which is, again, why the medical community says they're not there, which is also why ivermectin has become a miracle drug for so many people because it kills a decent amount of parasites. You take ivermectin, fenbendazole, and all of a sudden, all of these things start, all the parasites start dying off, and you start getting access to your nutrients again. You start feeling great. So, it's a bigger issue. This is also why the medical community keeps lying and telling everybody the body runs on calories, because if you just think about getting your calories in, you're going to miss all the vitamins, minerals, and nutrients that you're actually required to get to be healthy. And then you're not going to recognize that the foods you're eating not only have no nutrients, but they literally deplete you of nutrients. So there's a whole bunch of that type of stuff going on. I could give you a list of the things. The biggest way to do it, if you're like, oh, I don't know how to get all these things in, eat steak. Eat grass-fed, grass-finished, clean steak. It's going to get you the most nutrients in. Just Google nutrients in steak. It's a great way to do it. Clean eggs are a great way as well. You can live off just meat. Most people, not everybody, can live off just meat. You throw fruit, like clean quality fruit on top of that, you're good to go. That's not going to be keto. That's going to be fairly low glycemic, but it's going to get you the vast majority of the things you need, as far as the biochemical function goes. So the biggest thing that I work with people all the time on is this biochemical piece. There's a ton of supplementation you got to do unless you're bringing food in from outside of the United States, which is why so many people, when they go to Panama or they go to Italy or they go somewhere else, they feel so much better and everything. Oh, I don't know, I could eat the bread and I just felt so much better and I lost all this weight and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, it's because you're not being massively inflamed. You're not being torn up by the chemicals that are in the food, water, and air. So if you're not familiar with the chemtrail stuff, just look into that. They're actually starting to prove that it is. The government's coming out and like, yeah, we're spraying stuff on you guys for geoengineering. Because the global warming, we got to work on the climate. The fact that they're spraying highly toxic heavy metals and stuff on everybody. So that's kind of what's going on with all that. But you've got to detox all that stuff out. Ionic foot baths actually work pretty well if you get the right ones. Sweating is fantastic for heavy metal detoxification. So getting saunas and sweat. I personally like a little bit of wet saunas. I feel like I sweat more in a humid sauna than I do in a dry sauna because that's the goal, is to get the stuff out of you. Make sure you're taking a lot of electrolytes and drinking water when you do that. Coffee enemas are still one of my favorite things. It's one of the cheapest, fastest, easiest ways to clear toxins out of the body, heal the liver, stuff like that. Tudka, I love Tudka for a lot of liver stuff. And then methylated B vitamins. Methylated B vitamins are super important. D3 is going to be super important as well. And then, if you're not really one of those people who likes to eat a lot of meat and protein, amino acids are going to be a good one. So any of the amino acid blends that are out there, knock those out. That'll help. But that is a big, big piece. Like when we usually start going through stuff in the goals call, I always ask people, what are your 10 favorite foods? People are like cookies and cakes and pie, and that's fine. There's lots of ways of making cookies and cakes and pies that are not only not bad for you, they're actually really, really good for you. So just because of what, it's a cake or it's a pie or it's a cookie, doesn't mean it can't be extremely nutritious and extremely beneficial to your body. So, this is probably the biggest issue, we get into. If you eat right and you sleep, let's just put those two things together, you're going to be a lot healthier than the average person. If you can eat right, get some pretty decent sleep, and just move at all, you're going to be really healthy. And those are some of the things that we all kind of have to just wake up and be like, all right, we're not going to be nice anymore. We're just going to actually do the things we got to do. Suck it up and do these things. That's where we're at. The biochemical piece is also your hormones. Everybody needs testosterone, men and women. I'm glad that they're talking about, RFK's really done a lot of great things to help you guys with your health. I don't think people understand what all they're doing that is so unbelievably beneficial. They're going to reschedule, hopefully Trump reschedules cannabis soon, because that'll help with a giant number of things. But they're also looking at rescheduling testosterone. So it's not a schedule. It's not classified the same thing as cocaine and heroin. It's more of a, hey, this is a completely natural and super helpful thing that doesn't have a whole lot of negative downsides. So we should bring it in and help people. There's a lot of women who need estrogen and progesterone. I'm not saying that it's not a thing, but the vast majority of women, especially women around menopause, if they'll just get testosterone in, testosterone converts into estrogen. And this is one of those things that I argue about this all the time. You need to treat the patient, not the paper. So if you give a woman testosterone, her hot flashes, night sweats, vaginal dryness go away. She doesn't have any UTIs. Well, then she does, I don't care if the paper says she has 5 estrogen. If she doesn't have any estrogen deficiency symptoms, she doesn't need more estrogen. Now you can take it, but it's not going to be beneficial, and it's oftentimes going to be more harmful, because anytime you take something you don't need, it's not beneficial. So that's where a lot of that stuff goes. The other one on that UTI deal, we've known for a very long time that the hormones protect and kind of balance the bacterial flora in the vaginal vault. Medical science has known this for a long, long time. It's not like I made this up or I found this in my own personal research. Medical science has had all this stuff for a long, long time, just like they've known that psychedelics will break addictions 85% of the time. The medical community wants you addicted to things because it makes them money. You have to let go of this. Our government loves and protects us, and it's never going to lie to us, because our medical system is the government. You're like, the government's going to lie to us and cheat us, but the medical system's great. It's the same system. It's the NIH, CDC, WHO, FDA. Those guys are not your friends. So that is kind of where a lot of this stuff goes. When you start looking at UTIs, it is very, very profitable for a hospital or a medical system to let older women get bad UTIs and then spend a bunch of time in the ICU, $50, $60, $100,000, and watch them die tragically and painfully, because that's worth more money than giving women the hormones they need to balance the vaginal vault and not have UTIs anymore. So again, the medical system, not the doctors, but the medical system I just mentioned, all the government stuff, wants your money and wants you dead. That's basically what it is. And so that's why they're letting all these women be tortured to death and die from UTIs as they get older, instead of just giving them the hormones that they need. That's why RFK, when he came out and was like, we're gonna take the black box warnings off of the hormones and let people start getting help. He's like, that's why they're going to end the war on women, because the medical system had a war on women, because they understand if you tear down the women, you destroy the entire family. It's one of those things that the more stable and the more happy and the more peaceful women are, the better the entire family is. Yeah, we need fathers in the home. That's an obvious thing. But if the women are more stable and more sane, it's much, much better for everybody all across the board. If you deny them the hormones, you deny them, nutrients, you deny them these things, they're going to be miserable. And that's, the medical system knows that. And that's why they keep women, they keep their health so crappy. So, these are some of the things we got to start kind of taking a look at. It's where it is. And I never understood why, people get, people like in MySpace, RFK, even, Brecca and those guys get so much pushback. Just look at our healthcare. We have the worst healthcare on the planet, and we spend more than every other country. And yet we're like, gotta keep going down the same medical road. Drugs are the way. Obviously, it's not. Like, how many years do you have to see terrible result after terrible result after terrible result before you go, we should find a different way of doing this? But we keep getting like, oh my gosh, we're so sick and we're so this and we're so that, but we don't change the things that make us sick. We don't, find a different path from the drugs. We don't start exercising. We don't stop eating the trash processed foods. We've known these things for years, decades, but we keep doing them because that's the system everybody's used to. And there's a gigantic amount of money in it. And so there's a gigantic amount of misinformation trying to keep you sick and miserable so that you'll keep the system functioning. It's just where it is. So if you want to change that, you're going to have to change a lot of things about your life. You're going to have to start moving, some type of exercise. You're going to have to start changing the way that you eat. You're going to start changing the way you supplement. You're going to start changing the way you detoxify. These are things you're just going to have to do. And, whether you do them with us or even with somebody else, that's just where it is. So take that for what it's worth, but that's the issue. It's if you're like, hey, the past 5, 7, 10 years, I've been getting worse and, I'm getting fatter and life's just been getting less awesome. Make a change. Make a change. I've had a bunch of people that when we go through, we do the metabolic reset, within 3, 4, 5 months, they're like, I feel better than I've ever felt my entire life. Right. Because your body's now getting the chemicals it requires. You're moving a little bit. You've got your testosterone levels where they're supposed to be. Your insulin glucagon functions where they're supposed to be. You have all the minerals. You have all the methylated B vitamins. You've got all the D3. You're starting to get your sleep. You're starting to get all the things your body actually requires to be healthy. Again, this is why I tell you medical doctors should not be allowed to be called themselves healthcare providers because they don't provide health. They provide drugs. And the vast majority of us will be like, the healthier you are, the less drugs you're on. So why are you going to the guy who's giving the drugs that by definition makes you less healthy and calling that a healthcare provider? They're not talking about food, nutrition, diet, supplementation, hormones, sleep, exercise, none of that. They just talk about, oh, you have an issue, here's a drug for that. So they're not providing health, they're selling you drugs. But that's kind of where that is. If you guys have any questions, you guys want to start changing the way you do things, hit us up, ask questions, whatever it is, call, get a consult. Consults are free, they're 15 minutes. And let's see if we can't get your health back where it's supposed to be. Y'all have a fantastic day. Thanks for your time.